Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in.
I'm Rippy.
And I'm Shake.
And we're the ladies-in-law.
And we're ripping and shaking up all the legal information you know, need to know, and want to know.
From the tabloids, to the courthouse, to your own.
And on this episode, we want to go over something that's very important all over the world. It's the top 10 do's and don'ts of when you get pulled over for drinking and driving.
Yeah, so in our experience, we get a lot of DUI cases. And we found that, pretty much anybody can get a DUI. We've seen politicians, professors,
celebrities,
so
grandmas getting
a
DUI.
I just had a grandpa, got his 80 years old, on a ventilator, and just got his 6th DUI. So, this basically can touch anybody. So we thought that this was a very important topic. So pay close attention.
Siren, boop, 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 you're getting pulled over. Maybe you've been drinking, maybe you
not.
haven't, maybe you've drank very little, so you think you'd be under, but there are still some very important things you need to know.
So, number one, you want to do what the police ask you to do. You want to cooperate.
Yeah.
So when they ask you, first pull you over, ask you for your license, your registration. If they end up asking you to get out the car, don't question them. Just be cooperative with the police, because this is their job and their standard protocol that they need to follow when they're doing a DUI investigation.
Yeah, so do what they say. And being cooperative, be honest. Now, there's a little bit of a caveat to all of that. Let's say you get pulled over because you drop your phone, you swerve, and it's late at night. That's a typical situation. A police officer's gonna be like, oh, this person's been drinking and driving, I gotta pull them over, reckless driving. But maybe you weren't drinking. So if the cop asks you, have you been drinking tonight? You can honestly say, no, I haven't.
But if you have been drinking, just be honest. Because even if you say no, we've seen people who are clearly wasted and tell the police, no, I haven't been drinking, but you can see their eyes are bloodshot and glossy.
Smell it. You can
police
usually
officer
smell it.
usually can smell the odor of intoxicant. So, that question is kind of really
your judgment, and if you've been drinking a lot, guess what? Your judgment's impaired, and that's why you probably got pulled over. So maybe you did only have one glass of wine, so you would be.
Yeah, you can be honest and say, officer, I had one glass of wine. Now, the fact that you've admitted to drinking, the officers may end up having you get out the car and have you do sobriety tests, which you should pass.
If you only have one glass,
drink, you really shouldn't be over the legal limit.
Or you can say, I'll take the PBT, which is a breathalyzer right away, and you would be under. So okay.
So another thing is, if you are a CPO holder, so if you have a concealed pistol license,
the third do. This is important.
You need to let the officer know right away that you are a CPO holder, and if you have a gun in the car, you need to be honest and let them know right away, because you can get a ticket for failing to inform the officer that you are a CPO holder. Now, carrying a gun while you've been drinking, if you're under the influence, it's illegal.
It's illegal.
So if your PBT, so if your BAC, your blood alcohol level is 0.02 to 0.08, you'll just be charged with a civil infraction. It's a $100 fine. It's not a misdemeanor. Now, if your blood level is between 0.08 and 0.10, that is a misdemeanor. Maximum penalty is 93 days in jail. And the gun board can revoke your license for up to 3 years. Now, if you're really drunk at 0.10 or more, then it's still a misdemeanor, 93 days, but you can permanently lose your license. So
your license to carry
a gun. So we're talking about CPO gun license. So it's not a smart thing. If you're drinking, don't carry a gun. Just don't do it.
Just don't do it.
When they arrest you for drinking and driving, they're going to search your vehicle, and they're going to run your name in the system, see that you're a CPO holder, then they're going to look for a gun in your car, and it's just going to be extra hassle that could have been avoided had you been upfront with the police.
Yeah, and they get very upset about that. That's something.
Right.
So number 4, you do need to pay very close attention if the officer or officers have you do field sobriety tests. So you're at the point, they think you're intoxicated, or maybe you admitted to drinking some, and they want, field sobriety, like balancing on one foot, walking on a straight line, counting backwards.
Yes.
Don't rush through that. You need to be honest with them and say, okay, please explain the directions again, because any little thing, you miss one number when you're counting backwards, it gets used against you.
Exactly. So when the officers are doing these tests, they're looking for very specific clues.
Yes.
So one of the clues is you starting the test before the officer told you to go. Even if you are drunk, and make mistakes,
just slow down.
Try to do your best.
Slow down. And I know a lot of times we'll get police reports from our clients getting charged with a drinking and driving offense, and it'll go through each test, and literally the police officer will say, writing in the report, cut me off or start trying to do the test.
Yeah, they'll write the particular clues that they found, which indicate that you failed the test. Number 5, so after you've done the sobriety test, the officer may ask you to submit to a preliminary breath test. It's just a breathalyzer that officers carry on the field and ask you to take on the road. So as far as whether you should take it or not, it's really a judgment call. So refusing a PBT in Michigan is just a civil infraction. So it's just a ticket. It's about $150 fine. It's not a misdemeanor. So that's really up to you. I mean, some people refuse it because they feel like their levels may decrease later on.
Usual advice is don't refuse it. It's kind of like showing, it just irritates the officer. 6, don't refuse the chemical test, which is like a blood draw, which is after the PBT, the breathalyzer, or the data master.
Which is another breathalyzer test, but it's a much more accurate machine. And these chemical tests are actually what's admissible in court. The PBT is not admissible in court. It's just as part of the investigation for the officer to determine whether you've been drinking, driving, or whether they can arrest you.
Yes, but the issue is with these, if you refuse, let's say they take you to the hospital and you're going to take the chemical test, which is the blood draw, and you outright refuse that, guess what? You lose your license for a year. It's suspend your driving license, and you get 6 points tacked on. Now, this is irrespective of the drinking and driving charge.
Yeah, this is straight Secretary of State. Michigan has what's called an implied consent law, where every person who has a license in Michigan is implying their consent to a chemical test. So when you refuse to take the chemical test, you are not complying with complying with the implied consent laws that you get by virtue of having a license.
And
so
even if you try to get it back,
you don't win with this.
You never win. You're with the Secretary of State, and it only usually is if the officer doesn't show up. You cannot argue like, oh, I was drunk, so I didn't know what I was doing. Well, that's exactly why you're in trouble. So don't ever refuse.
So number 7. Don't run away. Now, we've had clients who have tried to run from the police. They're drunk, and I guess they're living in this fantasy world where they think that they can outrun the police or whatever the case may be. But don't run. I mean, you're only going to get additional charges. You get fleeing and looting, obstructing justice, whatever the case may be, and it just pisses the police off.
Waste their time, waste the resources more, and you're going to get caught.
And it doesn't help you at all. So, I mean, you can try to run, and you can try to hide, but you're going to get caught. You're going to get caught.
You will so get caught. And we've even had people that drinking and driving and got in a car accident because of it, and they fled the scene from that and tried to run, and you're always going to get caught.
And what else did he do?
He defecated himself along the way. So that was definitely not something anybody wants to find themselves, because guess what? When you get caught and maybe you've done such a thing, run, defecated yourself, it's all on the body cam footage and comes out in court.
It's in the police report.
It's in the police report.
Embarrassing.
It's embarrassing. So don't run.
No, do not run.
Never. And I think that kind of goes
into the next point.
Yeah. Number 8. Remain as composed as possible. Our clients thought it would be good to flirt with the police officer.
And, offer
sexual favors.
Sexual favors in exchange for getting off. That doesn't work.
Yeah, so that's not remaining composed. That's showing that you are actually inebriated. And police officers, they have body cam on them, and they have a duty to report what happens. And we have read police reports where it literally outlines what the defendant...
The section was called Sexual Advances Toward Officer. That was in the police report.
Right, and again, that can be brought up in court, and a judge is not going to want to see that. So remain composed. Don't flirt.
So next point is, before you may end up being charged with a DUI, there's usually some lag time because you got to wait for the test results to come in, especially if you do a blood draw. it may take a month or so
Yeah.
for the lab results to come back. So in the meantime, if you know you've been drinking, we suggest that you take proactive steps that will only help you in court and make you look more favorable to the judge.
Yeah.
So we suggest that you take a substance abuse evaluation. So that's a standardized test in Michigan where a licensed counselor will ask you about your history of alcohol and things like that and give you a score to show you what level you're at. We also suggest that you attend some AA meetings. I mean, it can't hurt.
Yeah, even if you don't believe that you're an alcoholic, because you were drinking, knowing that you shouldn't do that, it's against the law, you might want to go educate yourself and just kind of see some more of the consequences. And a judge, now it's out of the police hands. A judge is going to appreciate that you took that step.
Yeah, and even we've had clients who've gotten multiple DUIs who feel like they don't have a drinking problem. It's just the luck of the draw that on the days that they decide to get drunk, they get pulled over. But either way, the fact that you get a DUI or multiple DUIs, the court is going to look at you like you have a drinking problem that needs to be addressed, and they're going to order you to do AA, you know, if you're found guilty anyway. So why not get the ball started right now and show the court that you're proactive and that you understand and appreciate that you have a problem.
So number 10 is, if you get pulled over and you believe you're going to have a pending DUI charge, guess what? You need to call
the ladies in law.
Call the ladies in law. We know how to handle these things for you. So hopefully you don't end up in that situation, but if you do,
we're here.
Rippy and Shake.